Hello, everyone, board of directors, department heads, and store managers. My name is Benjamin Foley. As some of you may know, I'm an economist hired to evaluate the nature of Canada's economic climate and how it affects businesses, particularly you here at Source of Sports. Inflation and interest rates constantly reshape the business landscape, and I'm here to help understand these effects. During the start of the pandemic, consumer purchasing power was increasing, with lowering prices and households supported by government transfers. However, in 2021, due to disruptions in supply chains and rising prices of raw materials, we saw a rise in inflation, which would sharply accelerate into 2022. Since then, inflation has aggressively escalated for multiple reasons. The pandemic's effects on the supply chain drove up the price of importing goods and materials into Canada drastically, and the reopening of businesses after the pandemic produced large influxes of demand that supply chains simply could not manage, resulting in even more increases in price. This was all exacerbated by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which in turn raised global energy prices, particularly for oil and gas. These oil prices directly affect the price of transportation and the production of goods. For you retailers, among other businesses reliant on energy, the increased costs have certainly been recognized. And since inflation has also increased the cost of living, there has been pressure to raise wages in order to retain employees and help cope with the rising costs. Surges in costs across all facets of business have been present. We have seen increases in raw material, transportation, energy, and labor. However, it's not only Source Resorts that suffered these effects, but your customers as well. Since the start of the pandemic, the Consumer Price Index measured inflation to be below the Bank of Canada's target range. However, the opposite occurred throughout 2021, with the price of raw materials and the disruptions in the supply chain. Onward, CPI inflations reached an all-time high of 8.1% in June of 2022, leading to increases in most categories of goods and services measured by the CPI. This decreased the overall household purchasing power. To counteract that, the Bank of Canada raised policy interest rates 7 separate times. Now in 2024, we have once again seen inflation fall below the target range. The typical basket of goods has increased by 15% since the last quarter of 2019, while however the average household's disposable income has risen by 21%. This points to an overall increase in purchasing power. However, that may not be completely true. According to Budget Officer Yves Giroux, it is widely accepted that inflation and the accompanying tightening of monetary policy have affected household purchasing power disproportionately, depending on income level. So it may not be evident, but due to rising inflation and tighter monetary policy, the lowest quintiles have less purchasing power compared to the top quintiles who have seen increases in their investment incomes. The lower quintiles have not had these increases in investment incomes that exceed their interest payments especially. Looking at this figure, we can clearly see inconsistencies in the changes of purchasing power throughout the years. Many of Source Resort's customers fall between the first and second quintile, so it is important to realize many families have reduced spending on non-essential items to focus on larger costs, like housing and groceries. This directly impacts your revenue, so it is vital for your company to understand consumer behaviors and trends. Inflation and interest rates have created challenges for businesses and consumers alike across Canada. It is now time to implement strategies for future planning, cost management, and creative problem solving to help Source for Sports thrive. I know this may be overwhelming from a decision maker such as yourselves' point of view, but don't wait to make necessary changes. Consult with financial advisors, reassess your operations, and prepare for the ever-changing economic climate. Thanks for your attention, and feel free to reach out further regarding questions or insight into Canada's economy and how to navigate its uncertainties. Thank you.